5:15, I'll open the meeting. Welcome, everybody. We've got everyone here. No apologies. And flip over to the agenda. No need to co-opt. Item 2, confirmation of the minutes. Would somebody like to move those? First hand up. Thank you, Deputy Lord Mayor. Peace to you as well. Indication of pecuniary. Oh, sorry, we'll put that, the minutes. All those in favour, say aye. Hands up, whatever. Funny how you forget that after a month. So I'll declare that carried. Item 3 is consideration of supplementary items. We don't have any. 4 is indication of pecuniary and conflicts of interest.
Item 6.1, Chairman.
You've got an interest?
Yep.
Okay. Item 5, transfer of agenda items. No. Okay, we're on to reports. Item 6 is reports. 6.1, request to vary council policy, permanent private signage on highway reservation, Hewan Road. And we have one deputation on this item from Miss Ruth Langford. So you'll be leaving the room then, Deputy Lord Mayor? You're still here. Okay, you're gone. All right. Belinda, could you let Ruth in, please? G'day, Ruth. You're still on mute. Okay. So welcome. So we have 4 of the committee here with myself, the chair, Bill Harvey, Councillor Jax Ewan, Deputy Lord Mayor, Lord Mayor Anna Reynolds, and Alderman Simon Barakis. So you have 5 minutes and only 5 minutes to present your deputation to us today with regard to this banner on Hewan Road. So I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so very much for giving me time to speak. I'd like to acknowledge country and the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, and of course all those that have gone before and yet to be born. I'm a Yorta Yorta woman. A great privilege to be born here in Nipaluna in Hobart and grew up within the Tasmanian Aboriginal community here. I am delighted that the council is supporting Aboriginal people in so many active ways, and I see that this is another way that can show the actions that have been identified, particularly in your strategic plan that you've identified, particularly wanting to work with Aboriginal people, wanting to be partners in reconciliation, as well as being able to bring truth telling and a visibility to Aboriginal culture within the Hobart City. This particular banner, for me personally as an Aboriginal woman, creates a deep sense of pride. When I and my family walk in the greater Hobart City, there are very few symbols that I can connect to that signifies my culture or my sense of connection. There are even less symbols which represent the greater majority of residents and guests to Hobart who also support Aboriginal culture and want to know more. And so this particular banner is one of those great steps to be able to, one, instill a deeper sense of pride within the Aboriginal community, but also as a step forward for being able to represent the greater feeling of people within Hobart of the want to honour and acknowledge Aboriginal people, community, culture and custodianship of land. The placement of this particular banner at on Kanunyi is also very significant for us. And once again, in alignment with your strategy, we see that the representation and the acknowledgement of our spiritual connection to country and to particular areas of great significance to us and to other Nipalunians, it's really important. So I strongly urge the committee to continue your support of the community and of other residents and guests who are delighted to see more acknowledgement of Aboriginal community and culture and a way of being, particularly within acknowledgement. So I see that this particular banner that has been well supported not only within the Aboriginal community, and I've spoken to a lot of Aboriginal people who were delighted that this banner has been displayed, and we are hopeful that that would be a continued permanent signage, because, as I've said, there's very few things in the whole of across Hobart that does have acknowledgement, that is supported by residents themselves with the love and support of the community. So I'm deeply hopeful that this will go through to the Greater Council with your recommendations for the support for it to be put up.
Okay, Ruth, thank you very much. Did anyone have a question for Ruth? No questions? Okay, Ruth, if you could put yourself back on mute, we'll open the item for discussion. Thank you. You're welcome to stay and listen. Yep. Okay, well, I'll open the item. This is to vary a council policy, a one-off variation. Does anybody have a comment? Councillor Ewan?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ruth for her deputation and just move the item. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Councillor Ewan, any other comments on the item? Councillor Alderman Simon? Alderman Barakis?
Apologies. Thank you, Chair. Look, I've got a few questions, but I suppose it might just be easier. Can we get sort of some background on this from the from staff on sort of what the state of the policy is and why we're doing the one-off variation and what the sort of history of this is?
Okay. No, I thought that was enough. I thought the report had covered it, but I'll ask, I think, Mr. Noy, is this your area?
It appears so, Chair. Look, this has come about. The sign was put up a little while ago, and it was brought to our attention that it did not have the necessary approval under the public open space bylaw, and subsequently we made connection with the people responsible for the erection of the sign, and seeking them to lodge an application, which they duly did. And we, as outlined within the report, it's open for the General Manager to either approve or refuse such a request. The General Manager in this instance felt it prudent to submit it to the Council for deliberation, but clearly the officers have reviewed the basis for the application and felt that there was some justification for this one-off permit, given the strategic plan and desire to support Aboriginal causes in this way, and felt it appropriate. The officers felt it appropriate to support it, but wanted Council, given that this is a one-off proposition, you know, a clear departure from a policy position of council, that it felt that this decision should be made and supported by the full elected council.
Okay.
Thank you for that. I've got a few questions. Just in regards to, and I've got the stated objective of the policy and the policy in 6.5 and 6.6. I suppose what's the purpose of that, and where does providing this exemption fit into, you know, still meeting the purpose of the policy in the first place?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, the purpose of the policy is to, you know, not allow private individuals from erecting signage on public land. If that was to occur more broadly, then we could see public open space, public space, highways and the like taken up with signage that shouldn't necessarily occur, and you know, obstruct views and obstruct the enjoyment of these public spaces.
Thank you. And going off that, so 6.13, which does say, you know, it's considered important that the current policy be retained. In the event that political, religious or ideological signage were permitted, there would be expected to be a large volume of requests for signage across the city, and a proportion of these requests would be contentious. That's the argument, saying that the policy shouldn't be changed or removed, but we're effectively still suggesting a one-off policy. Is there not still a risk that us doing that is setting the precedence that any application of this kind might be up for discretion in the future regardless? So we might still get applications if we were to approve this tonight?
Yeah, look, there is certainly a risk of that, but it should not preclude us where there is I suppose, a strong support framework within our strategic plan to support such applications. Where there, you know, if there was a subsequent application and there was strong strategic support for the council to support that, then it may well be appropriate for council to approve that that subsequent application if it was of a similar nature. But if it didn't have that strategic support, then it would be appropriate for those that application to be refused. If it was a commercial proposition or a religious or social group that didn't have necessarily the strong strategic support, then there'd be justification not supporting it, I suppose.
Thank you. And just finally for you, Director, just separate to this policy, would this require a planning application?
No,
as far as the erection of signage?
I'm advised in this instance it would not. No.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Director. Look, Chair, I think I've got every confidence that this is going to pass the committee tonight, but I do have some concerns, and I think the whether or not people agree with the sentiment on the signage is one thing, but I'm not confident, or I'm not comfortable with it. If we were to approve this, then what's to say that the council wouldn't be approving any other message that the council might agree with on any given day? The council could move a resolution that we have a position on X policy or Y policy or whatever have you, and then we would have either council members wanting to put up signs, or even members of the public putting applications in for signs, whether they're, as is in the report, a political, religious or ideological nature. I think that, you know, we have these policies for a reason. I think if that sign was saying anything else, the recommendation would be completely different. I think we need to be even-handed when we're considering these policies. I think if there's room to do more artwork or more works, you know, acknowledging Aboriginal peoples in line with the strategic plan. I think that's one thing. I think we've already done a lot of work in that space, but I think we do need to not let our own council policies and our own council sort of governance fall victim to us wanting to be seen to be supporting or seem to be supporting or seem to be working in line with our strategic plan. So look, I don't think this is this would be a good decision from a policy perspective. I'm not comfortable with it. I think it definitely does open the floodgates. I won't be supporting it, but I do expect that it'll be going through a committee, so we might have to have this discussion in greater length in full council.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Barakis. Lord Mayor, have you got anything to say? No? Okay. Look, I'll be supporting the motion tonight. I think the alignment with both the city's Aboriginal Commitment and Action Plan and the strategic plan are strong, and that's the reason why we're having this amendment to this variation to the policy. So I'll be supporting it tonight. So if there's no further comments, it's been moved by Councillor Ewan. So if there's no further comments, I'll put the item. Those in favour, I'll just go around just to make sure. Lord Mayor, favour or not in favour?
In favour.
In favour. Councillor Ewan?
In favour.
Alderman Barakis? Sorry, you're on against? Yep. And I'm in favour. So that's carried 3-1. So thank you, Ruth. That will now go to the full council meeting for another discussion, which you're welcome to listen into on the day. So thank you very much for coming along today, and we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. Thank you. Okay, item...
Chair, I'm sorry, I have to go to another meeting, so I'll excuse myself.
Yep, no, I'm aware of that. Thanks, Lord Mayor. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back, Councillor Burnett. Farewell, Lord Mayor. And we move on to item 6.2, which is the food waste treatment pilot at Mather's House. So this is a very interesting pilot. This is for noting. So I might just get the director to give us a brief introduction, or maybe Jeff Holmes would like to give us a brief introduction. Either one of you, happy to throw it over to either you, Mr. Doyle, or Mr. Holmes.
Well, I'll kick off if you like, Chairman, and if we've got some technical questions, I'd ask for Mr. Holmes's assistance. And I guess the report is fairly self-explanatory. As you said in the opening, this is some technology that we would like, that we intend to trial at Mather's House that gives us the opportunity to effectively on-site process organic waste. Now, it is very much a trial. It's a trial at a venue that council manages, so as we can get a full understanding of how this technology works, its effectiveness, its suitability in our environment. We can then, if we find that as we expect, there might be some positives to come from it, we can then look at other locations in the city, perhaps the Aquatic Centre, which has a kitchen. And ultimately, if this was to be successful, we could provide it as an opportunity or an alternative for some of our commercial kitchens in the city. Because as you know, we've rolled out the food organics and garden organics service for our residential base, and we are getting a lot of inquiries from our commercial operators now to see how they might participate. As the report indicates, this technology, if it is successful and suitable, might provide an alternative to have a multitude of bins on the curbside. So look, with that, I think I'm happy, Chairman, to hand it over to the committee, but if there are questions of a technical nature, I'm sure Mr. Holmes will be able to assist. Okay, thank you, Mr. Doyle. Any questions? Thank you, Alderman Barakis. Yep.
Thank you, Chair. Just going through the costs we're looking at, all in all, we're talking about sort of between 4,800 to 6,200 per year, a year at least. So it's just to get 100% right. It's going to be around $12,000 a year in total. Is that right?
So, Mr. Holmes, do you want to offer a comment on that in terms of the costings?
Yes, I can, Director. No, it's in total. It'll be about 4,800 to the early 6,000s. That's total per year. It's basically, we haven't decided on the supplier yet. There's a few suppliers, and that's the range that it'll be per annum.
And I suppose if we we support the implementation of this down the track, this would allow us a sort of a bit of, I suppose, greater efficiency, greater capability in what we're doing. And what would the sort of, I know it might be a how long's a piece of string sort of question, but for the cost that we're looking at investing in this, what would the potential benefits from a bean counter perspective be as far as what we get out of this?
Perhaps, Chairman, I'm happy to take that one. And really, Alderman Barakis, that's part of the trial. We wanted to be very transparent on the costs of this particular option. But what we really need to understand is, as Mr. Holmes says, we need to choose the technology, and then we really need to, a part of the trial will be to not only establish the effectiveness of this as a processing unit, but to do some comparisons to the cost if we were to use the traditional methodology of sticking it in a bin and disposing of it. So it's way too early for us to even guess what the high level costs versus savings might be. That's the purpose of the trial.
At this point, we wouldn't even really have a watermark as far as what we would consider successful or not. We just sort of...
well, look, what I would say is if we can find an effective processing methodology that costs less than the current FOGO service, then I think we've got something that could be a real goer. But there's an awful lot of water to go under the bridge in that regard, remembering that we are also going to the market later in this calendar year for our FOGO processing. So it will depend how receptive the market is at that time as well. So there are a lot of options and alternatives that we need to evaluate. That's why this is a trial.
Look, Chair, I don't think anybody's moved it yet. I'm happy to move it. I think that, we're not actually endorsing it yet. We're just receiving a note report. But I think it's potentially a sort of an exciting new sort of technological venture. And I think, for the, even though we are currently sort of in the midst of conversations that we are trying to save money, I think for the small investment that we're looking at, it could in the future be of great benefit to us. So I think it's something that everybody should be comfortable in supporting. Once again, noting that it's just a report that we're not actually endorsing anything today.
Well, we are. We're endorsing a trial here. Well, we're receiving a report about a trial. So the trial is going ahead. So any other comments from Deputy Lord Mayor or Councillor Ewan?
Yeah, just to say, yes, I would support the motion as moved by Alderman Barakis, because this is looking at reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So that could only be a good thing.
Yep. Councillor Ewan? All right. Yeah, look, I'm familiar with a couple of these devices from other states. The Hilton Hotel has one that I heard about at a conference probably a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's reduced their waste enormously. Tons and tons of food waste that's no longer being put into bins and sent somewhere. So they've got a whole system set up in the basement for dealing with multiple venues within the building that produce food waste. So I'm really supportive of this trial, and I hope it goes well. Hope it's successful. And I think Mather's House is probably the perfect location for a trial like this, where we can control all the elements of it. So very good. Thank you for letting us know about this, and I appreciate that. So I'll move that we receive the report. All those in favour, just put your hand up for now. Yep. Okay, so that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 6.3 is the flood repair works post-May 2018 update. So there's been quite a number of works done on all the rivulets in Hobart, Newtown, Sandy Bay, and Hobart Rivulet. I'm pretty sure we've all seen some of this works, big piles of rocks stacked up in the rivulets, not as attractive as it once was. But when your bank's washed away, I guess you've got to deal with it somehow from an engineering perspective. So there you go. So it's cost us 16 million. Is that correct? And of that, 75% of it's covered by a national recovery program, I think. Would you like to make any more comments, Mr. Doyle?
Oh, look, Chairman, I think your summary is accurate. It's easy for us to forget the damage that the city sustained in May 2018. There was, of course, damage across the city in our bushland, parks and waste areas, as well as the damage that's been detailed in the report that's in front of you, listing the various stormwater and roads projects. Yeah, you're right. It was damaged in the order of $16 million, and we are still working our way through the arduous process of recovering the 75%. And there are some elements of the $16 million that are ineligible for recovery. So there are some issues we're dealing with there. But I'm really grateful for the work that's been undertaken by the various teams for the repairs to be effected. And I'm also incredibly grateful and proud, I guess, that we were able to sustain the delivery of our service by the council whilst we at the same time repaired this damage and attended to our alternative capital works program. So this report is, I guess, the second last that will be provided to you. I'd like to present one more report perhaps towards the end of this calendar year, once the 3 or 4 projects that are still underway are concluded. But happy to take any questions if committee members have them.
We've got Deputy Lord Mayor, then Alderman Barakis.
Thanks. Yeah, I suppose the question through you was to Mr. Doyle, just in relation to how many were outstanding and what sort of overall cost that might be.
So, Chairman, the report provides some details, Deputy Lord Mayor, on the few projects that are outstanding. As I endeavour to move to the agenda electronically while we do this, I think if I can direct
4.9, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct.
Yep, so I see it now.
We have a look at 4.9, and it talks about the 3 roads projects. It's important to note, Deputy, that there are 2 elements of, I guess there are a couple of categories of projects. Ones that are simply replacing what existed before, and the others are where we have undertaken some improvement on the infrastructure being replaced to prevent damage in the future. They are a little bit more problematic in terms of approvals, and also there's been a high degree of complexity. So yeah, you're right. 4.9 details that in essence we have 4 projects to go. One is the stormwater area, and the 3 roads projects as detailed. Now, they are included in that $16 million, and at this stage are certainly being achieved on budget.
Alderman Barakis.
Thank you, Chair. My questions are of a similar nature to the deputies. Just in regards to the outstanding projects noted in 4.9, are any of those, how many of those would be considered to be high priority? And then further, like, are any of them, do any of them have any safety implications, like if they're not fixed soon, or are there any issues of critical infrastructure that would necessitate them being done soon, or are these are sort of lower priority ones being finished after the high priority ones have all been done?
Through you, Chairman, Alderman Barakis, they're not necessarily lower priority projects. They have had a degree of complexity in terms of us securing approvals, and that approval might have been from a landowner point of view, it might have been from a statutory point of view, or it could have been associated with the development of plans because they are improvement projects, and so we've needed to get particular approval through the NDRRA process. They are all critical in their own way, but each of them are now underway, and as the report suggests, at least 2 of them will be concluded by June, the other 2 soon thereafter. So they haven't been left till last because they're necessarily the lowest priority. They have had a degree of complexity that have made them a bit more difficult to roll out, I guess, is the best way of putting it.
And as far as safety concerns, that up until now there hasn't been any safety concerns with them as they stand, or is this effectively tidying them up and fixing them up?
Look, yes, there are safety concerns. I mean, what it has meant that in each case we've had barricades and fencing and other restrictions, whether it be on traffic or on footways, and the completion of this work will mean that we can actually remove that and return them to full community usage, and I guess in honesty we will breathe a sigh of relief knowing that we've got some work completed, particularly where we've got embankment stabilisation. Looking out my window now and hearing the forecast for this evening, it always worries me when we've got embankments where stabilisation hasn't been fully concluded.
Thank you. That's all from me. Was that moved by the deputy? If not, I'm happy to move it.
I can't. Did you move that, deputy? Okay, so it's already moved, I think.
Yeah, all good.
Councillor Ewan?
Good, thanks.
Okay. Yeah, look, I appreciate the work that's been done here over nearly 3 years now. It's taken to recover from the May 18 floods. I think that just demonstrates to us that these sort of events have a huge impact on the city, both physically and financially over many years. So, the more events as we move into the future that occur like this is a 1% event, and let's hope that the 1% event doesn't happen for a long time again. But, fire, floods, heavy winds, all these things take its toll on the city. And for me, it's important that we do have some savings in the council bank accounts to cover the losses that we incur here. So ultimately, we will be probably about $4 million down on recovery on these re-establishment costs of banks and things. So there's no way we can get that money back from any program.
Chairman, we will be more than $4 million out of pocket.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the $16 million and we say, okay, well, let's, we can recover 3/4 of that. It's not quite that straightforward. There was $1 million worth of damage at McRoby's landfill that is ineligible to be claimed. Another $1 million was subject to an insurance claim, and we've up for out-of-pocket expenses there. We can only claim, could only claim for work that was completed by external contractors, and particularly in the early days of this disaster, we had to do a lot of work with our own workforce, which was ineligible to be claimed. So I think we're well over the $4 million out of pocket. I guess the other thing that's worth noting, and it's alluded to in the report, the May 2018 event brought to our attention the need for us to do additional flood protection work to the city. Now, it's a little bit like the work we do to protect the city from fire. There is so much we can do, but circumstances might be that given that our city is between a mountain and a river, we will always have a level of risk. But there is there will be reports coming before committee over the next year or two with big numbers on them, where we are currently investigating options and alternatives as to how we can provide better flood protection to the city. So whilst we might be $5 or $6 million out of pocket in terms of repairing this damage, we've got some significant considerations to make about future protection as well. So it is a particularly costly exercise.
Yeah. Okay then. All right. I appreciate that comment there. Okay. Well, it's moved by the Deputy Lord Mayor. If there's no further questions, then I'll put the item. All those in favour, just raise your hand. Yep. Okay. That's carried unanimously. So, and thanks, Mr. Doyle, for all the work you've done on that, and to the officers who have worked tirelessly for the last 3 years to make sure that they can complete the works or get the works completed through the systems and get the city back to where it needs to be. But we've still got a lot of work to do into the future, I understand. So I appreciate the work that the staff put into all these complex issues. Item 7 on the agenda is the committee action status report. So item 7.1 is the action status report. Are there any comments on the status report? Councillor Ewan?
Thank you. Just with item 13, it looks to me like it's concluded anyway, the Sandy Bay shopping precinct. I actually became aware of this issue with my civilian hat on. I applied to get some seating outside my shop and was turned down because of a new accessibility policy that meant we weren't allowed to, which is completely fair and I understand. However, there are other shops like directly down from my shop that do have outdoor seating. And it just seems a little bit silly that if we have a new policy that is for accessibility for people with disabilities, that it's not applied uniformly. I understand that this is for an older license or something, like it was granted back in the day or whatever, but surely when the rules are updated, they should be applied so that they actually work. I guess I'm not sure if that's a question that you can answer or if that's something in the works, but it just seems a little bit weird to me.
Is this the hotel around the corner?
No, the German bakery.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Look. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure on that one. I'd need to take that one on notice and maybe take that one offline and have a chat to you about it.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other?
Because sorry, just going back because that area wasn't upgraded necessarily, so.
Yeah, it is quite narrow there. So like I'm totally like I had actually council officers come around to my shop and sort of explain it to me, and I was like, well, that's fine. I was actually told that over the phone, and I was happy to just let it go. But it just seems that someone with vision impairment or whatever could get past my shop, but then a couple of shops down they can't.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'm happy to provide you with a response offline on that one.
Okay. Any other questions with regard to the status report? Deputy?
Sorry. Yes, I just wondered if there's any way that we can consolidate any of these points. I mean, a lot of them seem to be covering the same things.
Yeah, well, look, and a lot of those are in my domain, and a lot of them have been substantially completed with one or two minor exceptions. I'm happy to have a look back through them with Louisa and see if we can consolidate them in some way and rationalise them. So happy to do that.
Thank you.
All right, would somebody like to move that we receive those? Oh, dead heat then. I'll go with Councillor Jacks. Sorry, Councillor Ewan. All those in favour, just raise your hand. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Item 8 is responses to questions without notice. We have one from about battery points, okay, which we don't discuss. And item 9 is questions without notice. Does anybody have a question without notice? We have questions from Councillor Ewan and the Deputy Lord Mayor. After you, Councillor Ewan.
Thank you. You can probably just answer this. I was just wondering if we do have a plan to roll out FOGO collection bins around the city.
Chairman, Councillor Ewan, do you mean in addition to, we have rolled out the FOGO bins to all the residential properties.
Sorry, I meant like public bins.
Look, Chairman, it's probably best to take that on notice. We certainly are still in the process of rolling out recycling bins in our public spaces. We haven't yet turned our mind to the provision of FOGO bins in public spaces. I think our next priority would be the commercial sector. But Councillor Ewan, I'm happy to take that on notice and provide more fulsome response.
Yep. Deputy.
Thank you. My question is to Mr. Doyle as well, and it also is around bins. There you go. Could you please provide advice on, one, the new Kemp Street refuse system and how that's going? Two, any of the impacts from COVID-related cuts to services, including emptying of the public municipal bins? Are they being emptied often enough? And three, have we any plans to roll out more recycling bins, for example, near sports grounds or other key areas?
Chairman, happy to take those three questions on notice, but I can advise now that there will be additional recycling bins rolled out in public spaces, the program of which I'll detail when I provide a written response.
Thank you. I'll send this through to you.
Okay, no further questions? All right, well, I'll ask someone to move that we close the open and move into the closed. Anyone? Thank you, Alderman Barakis. I'll put that. All those in favour, raise their hand. Okay, carried unanimously.